Metafix is a show that teaches you how to think in the metagame. I am not here to give you the answers, nor am I going to tell you how to win. Metafix teaches you how to play in the metagame and how to react around the metagame and what is in the metagame. If you're looking for the answers, try HC Realms, check the forums, they have all kinds of neat toys and tools and teams being brought up, and check the results of a lot of the ROC tournaments or any Worlds tournaments to see how teams played out and what teams were used for. I'm just here to help you think.
This game can get expensive if you're trying to get everything. And as they've said, this game is not made for collectors, or it's not generous to collectors in the least. Collectors do exist, like myself and Amber. We do try to collect everything. But it can get a little daunting trying to do that. So ultimately, as a player, if you're looking to be competitive, you don't necessarily have to have everything. And this is kind of where we're going to talk about why teams are a good resource to have. So, this week, we talk meta on the cheap. So, when we talk about the meta on the cheap, I'm not trying to say what are the cheapest characters to get. That's not what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to is you have a budget, you want to make competitive teams, but you need only specific characters. So, now there's ways to do this as far as shopping online. We all know about Troll and Toad. Troll and Toad is an amazing resource to pick up individual pieces. TCG Player occasionally has some pretty useful tools. Who else has some really... Troll and Toad. Your local stores will often have figures. And it's always good to hit sealed when sets first come out. Now, what that does is it gives you a baseline of packs. The baseline of packs... On average, you might see 1 or 2 super rares if you're buying maybe, let's say, 5 packs. So we're talking about half a brick. Occasionally, you get lucky and pull a chase. Now, when you're going on the cheap, the first thing you want to do is spend as little money as possible. So, a couple packs is always what you want as your baseline because that offers you what's called trade fodder. You want to use that super rare that you have to try to get a super rare from somebody else. Now, oftentimes there are Facebook trade groups. HC Realms has its trades groups. Always go local first, though, because it's a hassle to mail things. It ends up costing more money. Talk to your local guys, talk to your buddies, see who's got what. And then from there, that's when you start looking for what's... So the first step you want to do is you don't want to buy on day one. Day one is not the day to buy for the cheap player. Mostly because the thrill of buying new packs is there. Everybody's buying a ton of stuff. And it's a little hectic. And you can get caught up in that. You don't want to get caught up in that. As well, you want to know what's in the set. Sometimes there's not a set list out until well after a set comes out. So that's when you really want to start looking is cherry picking specific figures. Of course, previews do happen. And if you do happen to see something in the previews, that's the figure you start chasing first, right? But what you also want to do, and HCRealms.com has a wonderful resource for this, you want to hit the Unix section in there and start building teams that you think you're going to play as far as competitive play. Now, remember, in Metafix, we focus on the competitive play. If you're talking about casual play, grab a bin, stuff from other people's bins. People are good at sharing. Anyway, as far as competitive play is concerned and having the stuff you need, you want to figure out your baseline for the set. And that is the commons, uncommons, and rares that you know you'll be using in sets or using in teams, and to get those. Outside of that, super rares and chases get to be the little trickier parts. Now, this is where it becomes very important to have a team of players, a good group of friends, locals, dudes that you know and trust to play with. And the reason for that is that these guys will help you when it comes to a tournament. Sometimes you need to borrow something or need a figure that your buddy has and you don't have. So borrowing becomes an option. As well, this game, as far as community is concerned, is one of the most unique communities I've ever seen, where guys will not cut off their own, they will not stop you from trying to win just because you couldn't get a figure. A lot of the times, even in the biggest of major tournaments, you'll hear a call out from a guy, I need to borrow X figure. And immediately 3 or 4 people will be like, I can help you borrow that. I'm not using it for my team. Because 300 points as a tool to, or as a selection pool of figures is very limited when you compare it, especially now with the new metagame, the 3-world rotation. That 300 points worth of figures falls into a small puddle of a sea of figures. And that sea of figures, there's collectors out there, there's buddies out there, there's guys that have a lot of figures, and we'll just, if they're not using it, they'll loan it to you. Now, granted, you can't count on them. Your teammates are always the ones you want to count on. And now here's where I want to get into the stereotypical team group dynamic. And there are like 4 types of people, 4 to 5 types of people in this group. There's a collector. In my group, it's myself and Amber. We have a huge collection. We have all the stuff. Then there's the brilliant builder. Now, sometimes the brilliant builder is also the collector, but the brilliant builder isn't always necessarily the best player. He just comes up with best ideas and can actually work with the team as far as building teams for players' playstyles. Now, the brilliant builder will know how to use the collector's collection in order to build teams for multiple members of the team, including the best player. There are guys that you will meet. You can throw them a stack of Heroclix, and they will look at it and go, I know how to win with this. These are the guys that can look at somebody else's team and see immediately what they're trying to do with no hesitation. Oftentimes, these are the guys that come up with the ideas first. But at the same time, these guys don't necessarily, they come up with it in conversation with the builder. So the builder talks to the best player, and the best player will look at other things that the builder's team could also do. Now, and then there's always the wild card guy. There's always that one guy that doesn't fit the builder or the best player's kind of strategy and works with the collector and says, hey, nobody's using that, right? In our group, his name is Tom Kerr. He'll ask me for things. I'm like, what? Okay. I'm all right. When that guy is working, just let him work. That wild card is a good thing to have on a team, because a lot of the time when it comes to the mass meta planning, there is always one team nobody even considered and might actually poke a hole in all the teams out there. I mean, who really considered Spiral winning Worlds, right? So always count on that guy. And that's the main 4. And then there's the 5th guy, the borrower. The borrower doesn't have his own collection, but is often in cahoots with the best player in the team. And the best player and the borrower are best friends. Because the best player will tell the borrower how to build a team that the builder built for him, and then the borrower will just be like, oh, cool. And the builder is, when I say like best player will have a style. The builder will know the styles. The collector just has a bunch of stuff. The wild card kind of goes on his own, but the most morphable is the borrower, because he already doesn't have a collection and he has to be told every time he's playing with stuff how figures work. So I guess that's kind of that was the crux of where I'm getting with this, is every team kind of needs these 5 particular elements. And then of course these 5 guys practice with each other a lot, or bounce ideas off of each other if they can't practice with each other. Sometimes they're in different cities. It happens. So that's the basic fundamentals of building on the cheap, as well as what it takes to make a team that makes it possible for somebody building on the cheap to exist. In a nutshell, it's possible to play this game without having purchased anything. And it's possible to win Worlds borrowing 3/4 of your team, or Nationals building 3/4 of your team. Looking at you, Jake and Adam. And there's nothing against that. If you like the game, you don't necessarily have to have all the figures, but it's good to have the figures if you really like the game. And all these guys do have their own collections of figures. Sometimes they need a little thing filled in for them. So build on the cheap. Cherry pick what you want from the set, buy it individually, buy a couple packs just to get a baseline to help ease the trading situation. But from there, you kind of pick and choose what you want and don't go nuts about it. Maybe there's 1 or 2 chases that you need. Make sure you get the ones that you need for your set. Oftentimes, there's a full set of chases that are awesome, like say the entities, where there's 9 of them. And there'll just be 1 or 2 that you actually need. Just get those 1 or 2 if you can't get buddies to have them. Pick and choose specifically what you want if you're going to be competitively cherry picking. If you're going to be having fun, most of the guys that I just talked about have a bucket of stuff. Just use their stuff. I did it for a couple years myself. So I was building on the cheap and team dynamics. Always remember, if you have questions, comments, concerns, check them out down below. Check them out down below. And we'll see you guys next week. And don't forget, practice, especially with a team of people, makes your team better.
The opinions and thoughts brought to you in Metafix are not meant for the casual game at the table. Married with Clix is brought to you by Majestic's Heroclix sales down in Costa Mesa, California. Right now, they're in the middle of storefront change. In the meantime, don't forget to check out their eBay store. If you check the link down below, they always have great Heroclix stuff at fantastic prices, and they'll ship just about anywhere.